pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Alderman Osteen. Alderman Rucker.
Here.
Alderman Ross. Alderman Ross.
Richard, your mic is turned off on your computer.
Alderman Hoffman.
Here.
Alderman Barella. Here. Mayor Hermanson.
Here.
Alderman Morose. Alderman Ross.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, here we got you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Very good. All right, tonight we're going to start with the citizens' communications. This is a time set aside on the agenda for citizens and visitors to address the mayor and board on any topic that is not a public hearing. For those here in person, speakers will be restricted to 3 minutes unless otherwise permitted. Minutes may not be donated or transferred from one speaker to another. Any questions or comments for the mayor and board may be sent to the city clerk at tberreth@osagebeach.org no later than 10 a.m. on the board meeting day, the first and third Thursday of each month. Submitted questions and comments may be read during the citizens' communications section of the agenda. The Board of Aldermen will not take any action on any item not listed on the agenda, nor will it respond to questions, although staff may be directed to respond at a later time. The Mayor and the Board of Aldermen welcome and value input from the feedback from the public. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board? If so, please come up, sign in if you've not already, and you have 3 minutes.
We need to sign in.
Oh, yes, please. Do you need pen and paper or both?
Yeah. My clipboard. Anyway, but until we get that,
I know who he is. I got
Yeah,
it.
we get.
He's good.
my name is Fred Catcott. Thank you. My name is Fred Catcott, and how did everybody enjoy their freedom today? Well, the reason you have that freedom is because of veterans. And that's about 1% of all the population in the United States of America. If I look through this crowd here, I see one person out of this whole group, and the mayor, that are veterans. Not very many of us. But they were willing to stand up, raise their hand, and possibly put their lives on the line for this country. Now, whether they stay 2 years or 30 years, we appreciate their services because they protect us. They go to war, they go overseas, and if you've never been in the service, you can't imagine what these young people do. It's unbelievable what they give our country. In return for that, I would like to make sure this memorial that we are planning out front gets completed. It is very important for the people on active duty and the people that are retirees and the veterans, that the town thinks enough of them to recognize them and put up a memorial. I think it's very important. I know there was a discrepancy. Some people thought we charged $100 for the bricks, and they wondered what the Elks was doing with this $100. Well, it's not true. We charged $50 for a brick, and I gave the mayor a copy of our form, and he can pass it around, and you can see right on there, it's $50, and the bricks cost us a little over $25, so we make about $24. And in that $24, we're gonna replace the flags when they come up, and we're gonna replace the bricks that have to be replaced, and we're going to help take care of some of the veterans that need help with any funds that are left over. So we need your support on getting this done. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred.
Second hat.
Yes.
All right, I have another hat. So do I get another 3 minutes?
Yes,
Let me
sir.
restart it.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, I'm president of the Osage Beach Special Road District. We have 3 commissioners, Randy Gross and Lee Schuman. We had our meeting last week, and as you all know, or if you don't know, I'll tell you right now, we have a 90%, 10% help with people that want to have their roads resurfaced or surfaced for the first time with gravel. So if they have a gravel road, there's no place for a fire truck or an ambulance to turn around. We just asphalt it for them. They pay 10%, we pay 90%. Now, there are some roads that come in and the people would like to have it eventually turned over to the city. In that case, we send these people to the city first, and now that we have an engineer, he will go out, look at it, and do the drawings and get the bid for what it would take to bring it up to city specs. Before that, we didn't have an engineer. You all decided not to hire an engineer for several years. We had Cochran. Cochran did a wonderful job for the city and for our road district. They only took on what the city asked them to do. And I have a few examples. We had Cochran work with us on Amy Lane, on Wren. They did the sidewalks engineering from Starbucks to the bridge, from Hy-Vee to Goldie Pearl, from Deerbergs to Vista Grande. They did the Parkway extension from Lazy Days to Executive Drive, and they did Mace Road. When we helped with that, we put over $100,000 into Mace Road, the road district did. All of those places were turned over to the city. We funded them, or most of the funding. We used Cochran, who the city paid for, and it worked out great. If we would have had Drew on staff, he could have done it, but he didn't do it. The only one that we had Cochran Engineering help us with was Manor Circle. Manor Circle is down Wilson Road off of Passover. It is a circle. It was a good candidate for a city street because it's a circle. However, the bid to bring it to the city standards was over $700,000, or the estimate to bring it to city standards was over $700,000, which was way out of our ballpark because we just don't make that, we don't get that kind of money to work with every year. So we couldn't fund it. So we did not. But we are doing the 90-10 split with the people on Manor Circle. Sorry.
Continue.
But we are fixing their road. At our last meeting, Alderman Rucker came and basically accused us of wasting engineering funds. Well, it's not true, because we have it in paper, and I can show everybody in our notes and our minutes of our meetings and the projects that we've done, that the only one that we didn't complete for the city was Manor Circle because of the cost. And other than that, they've done all our sidewalks. We now have Drew, so he's working on another sidewalk project for us from Goldie Pearl to Walgreens. And so he is helping us out, but that's a city sidewalk. Our road district has done all the sidewalks on the east side, and we've done a lot of roads. And those are all city things. So we don't feel that we're wasting engineering funds, because all the ones I read to you that Cochran helped us with were turned over to the city. So just want to let you know, we're working with you. Now we have Drew, but Cochran did a great job for us. And they were only doing projects that were directed by the city.
Very good.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to the minutes, approval of the minutes in the board Alderman meeting September 5th, 2024, and the bills list September 19th, 2024. Has the board all had a chance to review that, and do you have any corrections, concerns, or additions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve those two as a consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Alderman Hoffman, do I have a second? Alderman Barella. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I didn't hear Richard.
Richard, were you an aye?
I was, sorry, I didn't unmute, sorry. Yes,
Very
I
good.
was,
All right.
sorry.
Consent agenda has been passed. All right, we're going to move on to new business, Bill 24-57, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, adopting an amendment to the zoning map of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri by rezoning a parcel of land as described in rezoning case number 424. This is the second reading. City Planner Carrie Patterson, please.
Mayor, I have nothing further unless you all have any questions.
Any other further questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Osteen, do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Alderman Hoffman, roll call vote, please.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Hoffman.
Yes.
Alderman Barella.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
All right, second reading of Bill 24-57 passes. Next, we're going to move on to Bill 24-60, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement with the Elks Lodge number 2517 for ongoing maintenance and assistance related to the proposed Veterans Memorial Project. This is the second reading. Before we get into it, a couple of things I wanted to say. Just to be clear, this second reading has to do with the maintenance of the memorial. It does not have to do with the passage of the memorial for the amount listed. That'll be the next second reading we have. But I just want to expand on a couple of things that Fred told us too, because most of you know that I'm a big supporter of the Elks Lodge. I started the Elks Lodge in Indianola, Iowa back in 2000. And I'm still proud to carry the member number 00001 as I go throughout the country. It's kind of neat. And myself and Alderman Hoffman, as he pointed out, we are both veterans. It goes without saying, I said in the last meeting, and I'll say it again at this time, I've said in the previous meetings, I think this is great for our city. The Elks Lodge is a nonprofit organization, and any money that they receive goes back to veterans, kids, family. It goes right back into our community. With the bricks being at a $25 or $50 fee, I think he had said it was $25 cost. I don't know if that includes engraving or not, but they're going to make between $22 and $24 per brick, and they'll probably be lucky if they can generate enough to come up with the funds to cover their costs. So I am a big supporter of this project as we move forward, not only the maintenance, but of the project itself. So I just wanted to say that before we move on to comments from the board. So with that being said, this is the second reading. Do I have any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Hoffman, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Rucker, roll call vote, please.
Alderman Ross. Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes, and Tari, you need to move your microphone. We can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Much
Yes.
better, thank you.
You're welcome. Alderman Barella.
Yes.
Alderman Hoffman.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
All right, second reading of Bill 24-60 passes for the maintenance. Next, we move on to Bill 24-61, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to approve a contract with Don Sneeder's Excavating Company, Inc. for a Veterans Memorial Project for an amount not to exceed $157,750. This is the second reading. City Engineer Andrew Bowman, please.
I don't have any further comments. Just wanted to reiterate the not to exceed amount is $157,750.
Hey, Drew, can you move a little closer? There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's even better. Thank you.
Just wanted to reiterate the cost of $157,750. the cost of the bricks, as we heard from Fred, is just $50. And there was, I think, a question from the board about the responsibility of who is going to be placing the bricks after new engraved bricks are being installed, and the Elks did go ahead and say that they would take care of that in their maintenance agreement. So other than that, I have no further input.
All right, comments from the board or questions? Alderman Osteen.
First of all, I just want to clarify that the ordinance before us is not a referendum on whether or not we support the veterans. I feel like a lot of people seem to think that people that were opposed to this memorial were opposed to veterans, which is not the case. This board has always been in favor of a Veterans Memorial. I personally, though, have had issues with how this has been presented to us by the Elks Lodge. As we know, the number of bricks and the cost per bricks has been revised several times. Obviously, the final numbers we're looking at makes me feel a lot more comfortable that this was not just a huge moneymaker for the Elks on the city's behalf or the taxpayers' behalf. I still have never gotten a clear answer on why the Elks Lodge still does not wish to place this memorial on their own property. A lot of people ask me why they're not basically placing the Elks Veterans Memorial on the Elks Lodge property. And I've never gotten a clear answer from anybody with the Elks Lodge on why that has never occurred or why that was not an option. Regardless of those concerns, I will support this. As you well know, I was one of the people that was opposed to this because, once again, I did not like the idea of spending the taxpayers' money to basically benefit a not-for-profit organization, granted, but still, it was a moneymaker for them on our dollar. That's all.
All right, any other comments or questions? Alderman Brella.
I want to second what Bob said. I too was a no on this the first go around, and that is not that I don't support veterans. I just, my opinion, I felt that for $157,000, there's a lot of things we could do for veterans in our community that would benefit them more than this monument. But I know that there has been a lot of work put into this, and it's been ongoing for the last 2 years, and therefore I am going to support it this round.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions?
Motion to approve.
Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second?
Richard just did it first.
I'm sorry, Richard?
Yep.
Motion to approve.
Nope, we got a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Oh.
Second.
Alderman Rucker, second. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Hoffman.
Yes.
Alderman Barella.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Hesitant, yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
All right, second reading passes. Next, we're going to move on to new business. Congratulations, Fred. Congratulations, Elks Lodge. This is Ballpark National, and I'm going to take this one. We do have with us tonight, folks, Dallas Martz. He is the new general manager for Ballparks National. And before we turn it over to him, I just wanted to reiterate that I've said in several other meetings is for those of you that may not know, the relationship we had at Ballpark National started about 3 years ago, about the time I took office. And they reached out to me and said that they would like to join forces. There's a lot of people that came down to Ballparks Nationals. Ballpark Nationals was a growing facility. We have a very nice ballpark here. And they said, hey, this is what we do. And how would you like to join forces? We could take over the ballpark. One of the things that was very attractive to me was the fact that we're right here in the middle of Missouri, a tourist destination. We were running ball tournaments. They were running ball tournaments. We have dirt fields, real grass. They had artificial turf. And the thought process behind that was that if we formed a partnership, it'd be beneficial to both. And what I mean by that is there may be teams from Kansas City or St. Louis or Des Moines or whatever, and they would register, pay their $500 fee, and then all of a sudden it comes about tournament time and they see the forecast and Osage Beach is rain all weekend. So now they got to decide, we're $500 in, we've got 12 kids, we've got family, do we just cut our losses and leave, knowing we might not be able to play here in Osage Beach, or do we risk it come down here? And sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't. But with joining forces with Ballpark Nationals, that team could say, hey, we're guaranteed so many games on a turf field out there. It could rain literally all day, stop raining for an hour, and they're playing. So they may not get all of their games, but it made sense. They would still come down here. They would still charge their money. They would still, City of Osage Beach and the whole surrounding area would get the tax dollars from these teams. So it just made sense, and we did that. And the board took a look at it, and they said, hey, let's do this for 1 year. And so I've been a big supporter of this. And I'm going to let Dallas take over here in a second, but unfortunately, as you know, things went south here a while ago, but we are happy to know that we have a new general manager in Dallas. I met with him several times. He met with Eric Gregory, and this is something that we want to talk about renewing. So with that, Dallas, please come on up and you have the floor.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, please.
All right. Again, thank you, Mayor, for the introduction. Alderman, thanks for your time tonight. I'm in the process of moving here to the lake area. I'm very excited about it. A previous job about 12 or 13 years ago brought me to the lake for the first time and immediately started enjoying the area, and that resulted in me bringing the family down a few times for vacation and some fun times. So to get the opportunity that I have at Ballparks National to move here to the lake and become part of the community, I'm really excited about. But what I wanted to do tonight was spend a couple minutes, kind of give you my background a little bit and how I feel my background will fit really well with Ballparks National. Give you my 90-second resume, tell you what I've been up to the last 4 years or so in college baseball, and why I'm excited about getting out to Ballparks National, and also continuing the relationship between the ballparks and the City of Osage Beach, and why I think that's important. But as I mentioned, a little bit about me. I started off in the early 90s as a radio disc jockey out of high school, so I kind of did that a little bit. And one of the things I noticed when I was a radio DJ is one day, it actually took me moving all the way to Iowa. I was looking out in the parking lot of the radio station one day, and I realized then that the salespeople at the radio station made a lot more money than us disc jockeys did. So I thought maybe I should get into radio sales. So I did that for a few months, and one of my clients was a cell phone company, and about 3 months into that relationship, they offered me a job. I won't tell you which company it is, but I'll give you a hint. But I ended up being in the cell phone business for a long time, and I learned a lot. I was lucky enough to be just in the right area of the business, had the right people ahead of me that taught me a lot about business and relationships and that type of stuff. I did that for about 17 years, and then that led me into deciding it was going to be a good idea for me and a coworker to get in the restaurant business. So we both left our jobs in the cell phone business, really good jobs in the cell phone business, and started a sports bar in Des Moines, Iowa. We actually had 2 locations. The name of it was 34's, but I did that for 2 years, and it taught me the restaurant industry. It taught me what it was like to be a server, a bartender, a kitchen person. So it taught me a lot in those 2 years, and then during that 2 years, the business relationship between me and my friend kind of started to get a little bit rocky, so I started to look for something different. From there, I went on to do marketing work for a very well-known convenience store in the area. I won't mention which one, but I'll give you a hint. I did this for about 9 years, and this was the job that actually brought me to the lake. So I did that until about 2020, and guess what happened in 2020? We had COVID hit us, right? And at that point in my life, my daughters were almost done with college. One of them was done with college, the other one was almost, but they were pretty much off my payroll. So I thought it would be a good idea to take a big pay cut and take a full-time job in summer collegiate baseball. Summer collegiate baseball is basically a summer league for college baseball players. Everything from D1 schools that you've heard of, you've seen on TV, all the way to NAIA schools. And you recruit these teams every year. You put them together. You bring them to your hometown. You find them housing. You feed them a little bit, and they play baseball for you. I did that for 4 years. We started this team in the fall of 2020. When I was hired, we didn't have a team name. Basically, I was handed a blank piece of paper. So it was up to me to help come up with the name, and we did that with some social media stuff on or people suggesting names. And then, so the name that we keyed in on was the Alton River Dragon. So we had to go to work, get a logo together. This was the first sketch of a logo a friend of mine put together. And then a couple of days later, she came up with this. So that was our logo that we ran. But honestly, it was a fun time. I mean, who wouldn't think that's cool to be able to start your own baseball team from scratch? So I did that for the last 4 years. In the 4 years, I feel like we accomplished quite a bit for the local Alton community and the entire, we call it the river bend area. The Mississippi River kind of bends in that area and represents about a 50-mile area and on the Illinois side of the river. But we accomplished a lot in the 4 years. In our second year in 2022, we won our Western Conference Championship. That was a picture taken at home plate when we won it. We won it with a walk-off grand slam in the bottom of the ninth, down by 3 with 2 outs. It was a movie. So, but it was really a fun year in 2022. We produced our first 4 All-Stars on that squad. Also that same year, we had Eddie King Jr. He was our most valuable player of the whole league. I mention his name because he will get his name called next year in the MLB draft. He goes to the University of Louisville and is a tremendous baseball player. Blake Burris, local kid from the Riverbend area. He's been calling me wanting to move to the lake too, so we might see him down here with a job or something. But it was a fun 4 years in Alton. During the 4 years, in that same year in 2022, I oversaw a turf project that brought artificial turf to our field, which it sounds familiar because that's what we're in the process of doing out at Ballparks National with 3 new fields. So I kind of know what a project looks like with that. But we did some good things with that turf. We brought a big economic impact to Alton, Illinois. It's a town of about 28,000 people. We brought an NCAA Division III regional within just a few weeks after the turf project was done. We also were the host of the National Club Baseball Association. This association is made up of teams from universities all over the country. They have club level sports too. We hosted the Division I and Division II World Series, bringing $1 million economic impact in just a week and a half period to Alton and the surrounding areas for the last 2 seasons. Which brings me to here. Throughout my career, I've been involved in the marketing business, I've been involved in the sales business, I've been involved in the restaurant business, and the last 4 years I was spent in baseball. I feel like a lot of this, of my past, translates very well at the ballpark. I worked close with city administrators in Alton with the same type of agreement that you guys had here with Ballparks National. We had the same type of agreement with our ballpark in Alton. Some of the benefits, looking towards the future out at the ballparks, we look to continue to grow that. We've had the 5 smaller fields that are great for younger kids baseball and obviously girls softball. We've got the 3 fields that are in progress that we plan on playing on sometime next year in 2025. We're real excited about that. So we're going to continue to grow things. We're going to continue to give players and their families reasons to want to continue to come back to Ballparks National and obviously work that into here at Osage Beach as well. The reason that I feel that the relationship is important to continue between the ballparks and the city is to bring additional tourism dollars to the community and continue to grow that. Continue to grow our co-ed and men's softball leagues that we've started. I feel like we're off to a good start out there. I think we can get it up to the next level given a little bit more time, and I look forward to working on that. Continue to develop youth softball and baseball leagues. To me, this is probably the most important one up there. I grew up playing sports. I got to, my kids grew up playing in sports. I spent the last 4 years very close to over 200 college baseball players. And I've seen what sports have done for their lives. I know what it's done to develop who I am today. And so I feel like helping the city run the city park will give us a better opportunity to create youth leagues, to get more kids involved in the game and introduce them to the sport of softball and baseball. So that's one of the ones that I'm the most excited about. And also give a good example of how a city and a private business can work hand in hand for the better of the community. So that's why I want to explore continuing the relationship. I know that we have a meeting set for next week here in this building to talk about next year, and I'm real excited about that and the opportunity for the ballparks and myself to begin working with the mayor, the staff here, and doing good things for our area. So I appreciate your time. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Comments or questions from the board? Alderman Hoffman.
I was just wondering if you could elaborate as to why Jeff Fernetti canceled this contract to begin with. Was it financial? Was it because of the grant? Was it because of a degrading relationship with the mayor and the board? I would just like some clarification on why it was canceled.
I haven't talked to Jeff directly about that. However, reviewing all of the information that was made available to me, I don't see where the mayor or anyone else involved with the city attacked or said anything bad about Ballparks National. As mentioned in some statements, nobody lost money in this situation. We all made some money, which isn't what it's totally about. But as long as we're not losing any money, and this was just the first year and we're barely off the launching pad, being the new person in the mix, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't work on putting a new agreement together for 2025 and beyond.
Well, I know that I just randomly met a few people down at one of the local restaurants on the water and got to talking to them, and they were in town for a girls' softball tournament, and there was 30 of them down there, and they were from Indiana. And it seemed to me like the partnership was really developing well. Eric Gregory and I had spoke about it, and it seemed like everything was going the right direction. So I would like to continue it if it's going to go the right way. And I'm just really concerned, that we're not getting the truth about what's going on. And I just want some transparency on that.
Sure, I understand that. I can respect that. I took over as general manager 2 weeks and 1 day ago. So they're still trying to get my head wrapped around a lot of things. I will tell you this, looking towards the future, any relationship Ballparks has with the city of Osage Beach or any other community around the lake or any of our vendors, everything will be very transparent. It'll be a situation where we work on building win-win relationships with the entire community with situations like this, and also businesses and vendors that we do business with. So again, I'm still real new in this position. However, I see a very well-lit path to success, not just for the Ballparks, but for the entire community with the Ballparks.
Alderman Barilla.
Well, regardless of whatever has happened, between the mayor or Vanetti, I just want to say thank you for reaching out and helping amend something that, looks like it's a good for both parties. So thank you for coming back to us.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I do have one more question. I know we met today, but I was reviewing the letter that Vernetti sent to us on July 29th, and he commented the ownership group and the entire organization was very disappointed. Are they not disappointed anymore? Are they behind you on this?
The only thing I have been told by ownership is that the only thing they were disappointed in was the way the deal worked out financially. But that wasn't anybody's ill will. It was an agreement that the city and Ballparks National agreed on these terms. And for reasons, some of them not in our control, the city was, the mayor did his job. He negotiated the best deal possible for the city of Osage Beach, which is what he was elected to do, right? Representatives from the ballpark at the time agreed to terms that the way it worked out, the city was financially successful up here, and Ballparks National was financially successful down here. City made money, Ballparks National made money, but the city made quite a bit more than Ballparks National. That wasn't anybody's ill will. That wasn't anybody's intention. It's just the way it worked out. Most of it Mother Nature driven. We didn't know where we were going to lose. I don't know if it was several weekends. I don't know the exact number, but it was several weekends which resulted in us the ballparks not being able to make income on those weekends. So in my opinion, I'm excited about being able to sit down with the mayor and Eric next week to come up with a plan next year where we both can be successful at the same level, because that only makes sense. And I feel like if we can adjust some numbers a little differently and run things a little bit more efficiently, have a little luck with Mother Nature, better than we had this summer for next summer, it'll be a win-win next year. And this time next year when we're having this conversation, it's going to be a much happier one, and we'll be doing a little high-fiving and celebrating after the success we have next year.
But the ownership group and the organization is totally behind us.
Right, the
Excellent.
only thing they were upset about was we didn't make as much money as we'd hoped. So I think that's what kind of led to some of those comments, but as someone that just spoke to the biggest part of our ownership today, I can assure you that we're excited about moving forward.
Very good. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Well,
does the contract run through April, Cole? Is that
End of October.
end of October? Okay.
End of October, sorry.
but there is a clause that goes to the end of the year. I don't remember what it was. If you don't mind telling what that is.
We met today. I think we're going to try to figure out, we may end up having to send it back out to bid. It kind of depends on where Ballparks National falls, but it is renewable by the city by ordinance.
Yeah, I was just
We
wondering.
have until the end of the year.
I was wondering if this was going to have to go, basically die and go back out to bid.
It may not. That was the purpose of our meeting today. We'll know more hopefully in a week or two.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Ross.
can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, a couple, 3 things. One, I appreciate Ballparks National coming back. I will have to say that a year or so ago, I was very skeptical about whether or not this relationship could work well. For things I never saw coming, it's been rocky at best. And so I would just ask the gentleman there, and I apologize if I caught his name, but I didn't write it down, that a year ago we had somebody from Ballparks National stand here and tell us everything was going to be great. And I have no reason not to believe that you're going to make a big difference. But at the end of the day, we can't have another one of these. We got to have a better year, is what I'm trying to say. Second thing I'll just say is that before we renew, I believe that is the renewal would have to be approved by the board, right?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure. No issues there, but before we do renew that, I would, and Mr. Mayor, you and I spoke about this, I'd like to see some numbers and some data about how things went down from their side of it, and, you know, what we can do to help make sure that they're just as successful as we are. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Nope, I agree 100%. Any other comments or questions? Alderman Rucker.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to ask Dallas a question. I believe that's his name, Dallas. I picked it up. Is the approval of this agreement in his hands, or is it in the hands of the board? Because the approval of this agreement, in case he's not familiar, on the Osage Beach side is in the hands of the board. And I just want to know, is this going to come down to, as Mr. Vanetti wasn't happy, so he's just voided the contract, or is this going to be approval by your board, your ownership group, or who does the approval on your side?
It'll be primarily me in the situation. That's
Okay.
the short answer.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Dallas, I thank you so much. Appreciate your time, and
thank you.
Thank you.
we'll see you Tuesday. Yep. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. It's going to be pretty exciting. Or feel free to go. All right, next we're going to move on to Bill 24-62, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with First Mid Bank and Trust. This is the first reading. City Treasurer Carrie Bell, please.
Yes, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. The city has received 4 proposals for the banking operating services. Does anybody need a copy of the bid tab? We all? Okay. Services include the general account, court, police, a non-interest-bearing deposit account that we use for right-of-way and bond deposits. I am recommending the city accept the proposal from our current provider, First Mid Bank and Trust. I am aware that I failed to remove a requirement that the bank be a Missouri chartered bank in the 14-page RF request for proposals. The request for proposal also includes a waiver that the city reserves the right to waive any irregularities it considers minor in nature to the overall bidding process. I believe this requirement is minor due to the fact that the city has received their services for the past 3.5 years. I do recommend that the city accept the most competitive proposal from our current banking services provider, First Mid Bank and Trust. Happy to take any questions.
Alderman Osteen.
Carrie, I've got one question for you. I'm assuming this is a yes answer. Any issues that we had with them in the previous year, I'm assuming that's something that you discussed with them as part of the bidding process, as far as maybe it's the timeliness of documentations being provided or response times, or I don't know if there was any issues that you personally see that we needed to address or you needed to address.
Actually, we have had some challenges, technology changes. We've had some changes with our positive pay, and they've been very responsive to work through these issues with us. And they've also been there in a couple fraud situations to very responsive, very worked well with us.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Osteen, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right. First reading passes. Next, we move on to Bill 24-63, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Hood and Associates, CPAS PC, for auditing services, annual comprehensive financial reports for the years 2024 through 2028. First reading, again, City Treasurer Carrie Bell.
Yes, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. I do not recall the city treasurer ever having 2 agenda items, ever, since I've been here. So with that in mind, yes, I would, we did receive, again, 4 very competitive or quality proposals for auditing services. And in the current environment, that was a surprise. The recent, I also do have an attached bid sheet that lists some of the details of the different companies that provided proposals. The city has completed its first contract with Hood and Associates with good results, and all 3 references were checked, and I had conversations with everyone, received positive feedback. I do recommend the city approve this competitive proposal with Hood and Associates.
All right, thank you very much.
Any
Alderman
questions?
Osteen.
Carrie, just a little clarification on the agenda summary. When would this new contract go into effect? Because it states on the agenda summary it's effective for years 2024 through 2028, but further in the notes it states it's a 5-year period.
It is a 5-year period. The financial fiscal is different than the auditing fiscal. So we're always a year behind. So this will actually be for 25's financial, but for the 24 audit.
Okay.
Does that?
I couldn't get the dates to match in my head on.
Okay.
Wait a minute, this is 4 years, that says 5 years, so.
The contract is for a 5-year
it's for
period.
5. Okay.
And so the next time somebody is doing this, you won't have banking and auditing in the same year.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Hoffman. Alderman Burrell, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. First reading passes. Next, we have Bill 24-64, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to approve a contract with land divisions for City Park Slope Stabilization Project for an amount not to exceed $44,000. First reading, City Engineer Andrew Bowman, please. Or just Drew.
Or just Drew, either one. I'll answer to both. This project is a pared down version of a project that was put out to bid and brought to the board earlier this year in April. That previous project had the slope stabilization and the construction of pickleball courts. This project is just the slope stabilization and the city park. For those of you not familiar with it, it's the slope that is just adjacent to the volleyball court and the fishing pond. So we sent this out to bid without the pickleball court construction. The low bid was received from Land Divisions for $44,000. I believe the estimated cost, it's in the bid tab, but we're under the estimated amount by the estimated amount by $15,000. I do recommend approval and happy to answer any questions from the board.
All right. Comments or questions from the board? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Hoffman, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Barella. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, first reading passes. Next, we have a presentation, Route 4288 TAP project. City Engineer, Drew Bowman.
So the city applied for and got a TAP grant from MoDOT in 2022, the scope of which was to bring sidewalk from the city, or from the school of the Osage all the way to Columbia Boulevard Avenue, anyway, to Columbia. And we hit a fairly large snag when we went to get the state environmental approvals that we have to go through, since this has federal project dollars in it, because it is a TAP grant. What they discovered in those approvals is that the land through Penick Park has extra federal protections because we lease that ground from the state park. Those extra federal protections are called 4F and 6F, and what has to happen is for every square foot that we have to use differently than is what was required, the state has to it has to be mitigated by purchasing other ground elsewhere. So the state took a very long time to give us those NEPA approvals. So we are just now getting into the preliminary plan phase and the right-of-way plan phase. So I wanted to present what the plan looks like so far to the board, and kind of get some of your feedback and concerns from a high-level view. Attached to this agenda item is an aerial photograph with some sidewalk drawn in red and green. What you notice right away is that this is a fairly long project, and I'm sure that many of you are wondering what the green denotes versus the red. So we came into a fairly significant right-of-way concern and utility conflict area right around the bowling alley on Route 42. And as far as I can tell from the correspondence on this project, the best solution that was come up with at the time was to span the area that you can find in the photos that I attached to the agenda item below, specifically the one with the gravel. Find it on page, sorry, I'm scrolling at the moment. Specifically on page 225, the embankment with guardrail, gravel, and a retaining wall. At minimum, that retaining wall is 3 feet tall. At maximum, it's almost 6 feet tall. and then there's an embankment of 2 to 1 back towards the road. And that embankment contains electric lines, water and sewer, and stormwater. So it would be a significant utility impact. The best solution that we came up with, or that engineering services came up with, the SNS came up with, was a prefabricated metal sidewalk that you can see in the detail sheet on sheet C0.03 on the plan sheets. And that's what that green denotation is on the aerial. So additionally, the preliminary estimate for this project was significantly less than what we are currently projecting. The current projection right now is right about at $1 million to build this project. I am going to be working with Engineering Survey and Services further to try and hone in this project, but we are kind of under the gun because there is a requirement to try our very best to build this project in 2025, but to try and get this project out to bid before the end of the year. I'm sure there are questions, and I'd be happy to answer any of them.
All right, questions from the board?
What's our percentage of
Alderman
on the? Yes, yes. If this is going to be $1 million, is this the 90-10, 80-20? What portion of that is ours?
So a TAP grant is an 80-20 split. However, we have a maximum dollar amount for MoDOT of $455,616, which is right there in the budget item. I did ask MoDOT if there's any way to increase that grant allowance, and they informed me that no. And the maximum amount we could have asked for this project was $500,000 anyway.
Any other comments from the board?
I have a question.
Alderman Barella.
Is there a reason that the sidewalk needs to go all the way up to Columbia Boulevard, or what is the reason for like where it ends or where it?
Yeah, so part of the application process is you line out a scope and present it to MoDOT, and they go through a process and grade each proposal and each application, and then usually that proposal and scope goes with a dollar amount that you're requesting, and then they award the grant with the specification that you must build the project scope in its entirety.
I mean, I can see that need from Scoliosis for sure to Phoenix Park. I think that's pretty useful, but I just was wondering about the rest of that.
Yeah, the total scope from Columbia to the school was put in the application, and we are contractually obligated to build that full scope.
All right. Alderman Ross.
So, Andrew, can you tell us how much we've spent, round numbers, not exact dollars, but to date on this project so far?
As far as engineering?
Yes.
I don't have that number right in front of me at the moment, but I will write it down and get back to you as quickly as I can.
Okay. Do you know if this was originally a 50-50 TAB grant?
I don't recall the actual split, but I do believe that TAP grants are generally 80-20. The original estimate for this was considerably less than it is now.
Okay. Well, we did budget for this. I'm just struggling in my mind to determine if it's worth this much of the city's money, and if we've already spent 150,000 on engineering. I have no idea. I just threw a number out there. It might make a difference, and I didn't ask that question earlier, Andrew. I didn't think of it, but as I was going through this, so if it was originally 80-20, what's happened is the scope is so challenging that it may not be worth the money to invest. To answer Alderman Barella's question a little bit, at least for in my mind, the connection was to try to get over closer to where there's quite a bit of residential housing, and there's multi-unit and single-family over towards Columbia Avenue, and connect up. Trying to create over time as Kerry Patterson, I'm not sure if he's there, but if he is good, he always talks about it needs to be a transportation system. It's not an amenity. And there's a lot of folks that walk over to the Pruitt's Point and so on and so forth, live in the apartments back there, plus there's a lot of housing back there. And it was connected to school. I don't know if it's worth it or not. I have a lot of reservation right at this time. I'd be curious to anybody else's thoughts.
Anyone else have any questions on this presentation tonight? The direction now, Drew, is what are you going to do?
I am currently going to figure out how much we have spent with ES&S and their total contract amount. I am also going to be meeting with ES&S specifically about the prefabricated sidewalk and kind of what are our options there. We did get input back from MoDOT on that portion, and I have some questions and concerns about that piece of it. I think the biggest takeaway from this is that because we spent so long in the NEPA process and the approvals took so long, generally when you get a TAP grant, you try and build it basically as quick as you can because construction costs are always going up. We got and were awarded this grant in 2022, and I would consider that there has been, especially in heavy highway construction materials, there's been a tremendous amount of inflation on materials and labor over the last two years. So I think that's also driven some of these costs up.
What's our deadline for using the funds? What year timeline?
Well, I've been given direction by MoDOT to try and have this project out to bid by November 1st, but because the state took so very long in the approval process, I think we're going to get some extra grace, but they are going to push as hard as they can to get us to build this project as quickly as possible because of putting on my MoDOT hat for a second, of the federal appropriations. So there's no guarantee for MoDOT that if they don't spend this money with federal dollars attached to it, that it doesn't get taken away by the federal government. Additionally, they try and have as much of their federal funds spent up front as possible so that when other states and other entities at the end of the year get reappropriated and the federal government takes that money back, MoDOT can have its hand out and say, we've spent all of our money, we've met all of our match, you can give us some more money. And so that's how MoDOT increases their budget every year.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes, a couple of comments. One, to reiterate what Alderman Ross had said about making this a transportation piece of pavement, I guess you would say. And we also, one of the things I don't know if the board is aware or not, but the Osage Beach Special Road District is in the process and working through some challenges, but are working on sidewalk in front of Outback and basically connecting that sidewalk there and bringing that over to 242, and even talking about taking that sidewalk possibly further down 242. At their last meeting, they discussed possibly taking it down to Columbia. So that's what they are in the process of doing. And the reason I bring that up is because they know that we are working on this process. So, tying these sidewalks all together is a value. It's unfortunate that this one has increased in cost tremendously more, but we need to consider that because that's something that we've we've not done as well as we could. In the past, we've had pieces of sidewalk and they don't go where, and we're now trying to connect them all so they can go like all the way to the school, not only from the Columbia Drive, but Columbia is now being connected or on the process of being all that. So that's, again, I'm in favor, but I'm also wishing we could somewhere or another cut some of that cost. So there's just some information to consider. Thank you.
Alderman Ross.
So, Andrew, if we were to, for some reason, not be able to get this done, and we had to go back through the process again, would the same type of approval process through the state have to occur? Or for lack of a better term, we're approved now?
As far as this project goes, the approval process really hung up on the impacts to Phoenix Park. So as long as we do not change those impacts, we are still approved. And we are currently, right now, sitting on a preliminary and right-of-way plan review on MoDOT. And so as long as we don't change that piece, you know, our approvals aren't going to change.
Okay, good. That's good to know. I appreciate that because, I mean, you could think through this and say, well, TAP grants are usually 80-20. Maybe if we can't get it done in time or we shouldn't push so hard, then we could always reapply. Now, I realize there's no guarantee we'll get the grant. I completely get that. Which brings me to one other thing. If it was an 80-20, I'm not finished yet, I'm sorry. If it was an 80-20, they would still only have a maximum of 500,000. Is that right, Andrew?
That is correct, yes. There would be a maximum of $500,000 on I don't know if those change
Since 22.
yearly, but yeah, that was awarded, yeah, in 2022. Additionally, if we somehow don't build this project, and even if we were to build this exact same project 2 years from now, if there were federal dollars involved and we had to go through the environmental process again, I think we would have to anyway, since it's state land, those approvals would take just as long again.
Okay.
The approvals from today for this project do not carry over into what in the federal government's mind and the state government's mind would be a new project.
Okay, thank you. Good to know. That's all I have.
Alderman Ross, I have an answer to your engineering question. We've spent just shy of $41,000 on engineering, but 80% of that's been reimbursed to us.
Thank you.
All right, Alderman Osteen.
Just one question. Drew, you had brought up the section that is over there by the bowling alley, and that an alternative was to use some type of prefabricated sidewalk. Why aren't we building the entire sidewalk out of that material?
Why are we not building it?
Would it be cheaper than a concrete or pavement sidewalk?
No. So that section, if you look at the engineer's estimate, it's called metal prefabricated sidewalk. That section is only like 250 feet and comes out to be about $310,000.
Oh, wow. Okay,
so it has a handrail on both sides. It's 6 feet wide. It's ADA compliant. It is low. It's high grip. It's a solution that MoDOT and ES&S has come up with to limit the impacts of the utilities and relocations and potentially right-of-way hazards and impacts because of that retaining wall and the proximity of the bowling alley. And I just need to dig deeper into that solution and if there are possibly any others.
All I heard was prefabricated, and I thought, ooh, cost cutter. But
maybe.
Obviously not. Or perhaps that's a different avenue we look into.
Yeah, it's just a different avenue. I don't know that it is less expensive or more expensive, but it's different. And so I just want to make sure I have a good handle on it.
Okay, just a thought.
All right, any other comments? Alderman Hoffman.
Just real quick, to answer Alderman Ross's question, it doesn't seem like we're getting a lot for our money. It does seem expensive, but it seems like things being expensive is nearly every project that we do here in the city. Just expenses are going up, bids are expensive, concrete's expensive. And considering that a lot of this foot traffic is coming from the school, it's kids, it's minors, I'm aligned with Alderman Rucker on this, that I think we need to push through and get this all connected and complete this project. That's it.
All right. Drew, do you have everything you need at this point? And with the next process, after you find out what you need, would that be a first reading down the road? Is that what you perceive?
Yes, so we'll continue to go through the approval process through MoDOT and the grant process. And when I have something to present to the board to go out to bid and bids back, I will be bringing it to the board to first reading and second reading on completing this project.
Drew, thank you very much. All right, our last item of business is a presentation from the Water Report Review. Again, City Engineer Drew Bowman.
I have Cochran here to present the water master plan, to kind of go over what they've found for us, and I'll kind of let them take it from here.
Thanks, Drew. When Mayor Harmison said there's some exciting stuff to come this meeting, I'm pretty sure this is what he was referring to.
This is it. We saved the best for last.
Yeah, here we go. Drew, are we going to be able to get the presentation up on the screen?
It was part of the agenda, but let me.
We have handouts we can give out, or if what you have in your board packet is sufficient, we can just go with that. Everybody can see what's in your packet, okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Yes.
Okay, if anybody doesn't have it, just holler and we can get your hand up.
I think we have
Okay,
it.
so, quick introductions. I think most of you know me. I'm David Van Laer with Cochran. A face you may not know is TJ Garbs over here to my right. TJ's one of our top engineers on the water and sewer team, and he was instrumental in putting this evaluation together. So he's here tonight to assist with the presentation. Moving on to page 2. You just quickly cover why we did this. So think of this as just a complete evaluation and almost like a physical of your water system. We go through and we try to find the weaknesses of the system, the strengths of the system, areas of concern where the city should be looking to make improvements. We try to get a good solid grasp on what your current water usage is and what those trends have been. Look at your storage volumes, your water storage tanks. Look at your production capabilities, the wells throughout your system, and then evaluate the distribution system. How well can your system move water around the system and get water to all areas of the city. Based on that evaluation, we'll look at identifying improvements to your system. So what do we need to do to make your system be more robust and in better shape? And then also from there, then we try to develop a capital improvement plan. So like we have the pavement master plan, the sidewalk master plan. We hope that through this process, we'll develop a master plan for your water system, and that'll be kind of a roadmap for what improvements need to be made to the water system over the next, looking at about 30 years here. So we'll start off with your west system as we flip through here. As I'm sure you're aware, the city has 2 separate water systems broken up by the Grand Glaze Bridge. The first area we'll be looking at is your west system, and I'm on the page that has the colorful bar graphs that says west consumption at the top. So what you're looking at in this chart is water usage by month, 2018 through 2023. The taller the bar, the more water you're using, essentially what you see. And as everyone would expect, you see more water usage in the summer. That's typical of any community, but that's exaggerated in Osage Beach because of the influx of people that you see. So this would certainly be expected. Through those summer months, you have an average daily water usage of just over 700,000 gallons per day. And we would look at, there's some different methodologies we use, but we would project a peak flow, so your peak day, a Memorial Day weekend, 4th of July weekend, of right at 1.1 million gallons per day. So you see that jumps up quite a bit from your average day. Jumping on to the next slide, historic growth. Just some more stats here for you. In 2023, the system had 1,374 connections. So that's essentially think of those as all your meters throughout the West system. Something else that's unique about Osage Beach is a lot of those connections or meters serve many, many units. So 100 to 200 units. So below where we show how many connections you have, the number of units is 2,832. So that's important because as we project growth, we need to know how many units you're serving, not just meters. That could lead to under projecting growth if we consider 200 units as just one connection and don't evaluate that differently than just a single family home. The lower chart, you see total average water use by year going back to 2007. Just a quick takeaway from this, if you compare 2009 to 2023, you'll see an increase in water usage of 100,000 gallons per day. So again, this just demonstrates that over time, there's more people moving into the city, more water being used, and as we continue here, we'll demonstrate the impact that has on your infrastructure. Next slide, which says projected growth.
Dave, could I ask a question real quick? Or?
Yes, absolutely.
Noted at the very bottom of that graph, it states average annual usage growth rate is 1.05. Is that average for any community or?
Yeah, I would say that's not far off from what we see. I look at 2% as a pretty high growth rate. Cities that are seeing 2% growth per year, they're seeing lots of growth. So 1% going all the way back to 2007,
Okay.
I think that's probably representative of the growth and the rapid growth that you've been seeing recently also. That growth was pretty slow, 2008 and a period after there. So over time, that's kind of averaged out. So yeah, I'd say that's
On
average.
on par with an average
Maybe
community.
even
Okay.
above average, yeah. Okay, onto the projected growth slide. So we're going to take this data that we've been presenting, the number of customers and the water usage per customer, and then we're going to do some growth projections, and that's going to help us project what your water usage will be in the future as you continue to grow. To make those projections for the next 5 years, we're actually going to project a 5% annual growth rate, and this kind of goes back to what you were asking about, Bob. We're doing that just because some of the developments that we're currently aware of. The projects going on Jeffries Road, just the number of units you're going to see there during full occupancy, that could have a significant impact on your water usage. After 2029, we'll drop back to a 2% annual growth rate. Again, we consider these growth rates that we're using to be conservative. If anything, we want to overestimate what your growth is going to be. So overestimate the water you're going to be using, not underestimate and put you behind in planning and not prepared for the growth. So again, we kind of, some of the goals there, we just use the same stats, 700,000 gallons per day, 2,832 units. That comes out to right at 250 gallons per day per unit. And then if we grow the number of units at 5% for 5 years and then 2% from there on out, you'll see that takes you from 700,000 gallons per day now up to 1.5 million gallons per day in about year 2053. So again, this type of growth is significant. It doubles your water usage. It's going to double the strain on your water system, and it's going to require investment in your infrastructure. Jumping to the next slide where we labeled storage west system at the top. On your west system, you have one storage tank. Your Swiss Village Tower provides 1.5 million gallons of storage. Was constructed in 2001, so relatively new infrastructure. Something we look at on your storage is we like to see systems have at least 1 day of storage when compared to your average daily use and no more than 4. We like to see a minimum of 1 day so you have time to react to emergencies, well failures, other problems with your production. Just it puts you in a more stable position if you have a day of storage and time to react to issues. And then no more than 4 days of storage. If you have more than 4 days of storage, that could lead to water quality issues if the water sits in the tank too long. You'll see on the west system, you have 2 days of storage, so kind of right in the sweet spot, right between 1 and 4 days. So that looks pretty good. So won't see any short-term recommendations in adding storage on the west system. If you flip to your next slide that says production, production in the west system, you currently have 3 wells in your west system. They're all located generally in the area of the Swiss Village tank. Currently, well 2 is not in use due to water quality issues. You see the data on water quality from well 2 below the table. Iron levels are about double the secondary contaminant level recommended by the EPA and DNR, and then manganese levels are about 10 times the recommended level. This is what leads to water quality issues we see. Zach, do you want to give a little kind of discussion on what has been seen in the system when well 2 has been used in the past?
Yeah, I think we kind of all forget about it. Was a big talking point in the past, the dirty water and the water quality issues we had. When Altair is operational, we flush the system 3 days a week. So at a minimum, someone's flushing it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just to, the settling time with manganese, if you can get it out of the system fast enough, it doesn't have time to oxidize. So if you can swap out that old dirty water with clean water, you buy yourself some more time. But then next week comes around, you're flushing it again. Once we put that in emergency status and relied on number 3 once it got drilled, and we're just relying on 1 and 3, now we spot flush every once in a while when we get a call. We went from flushing 3 days a week to the following year, doing a big dump on the system right before Memorial Day, not a lot of problems, big dump on the system in Labor Day. Now we're kind of the point where there is still some of this deposit left in the main, and we just get some concerns every once in a while that we need to flush it out. But yeah, it went from, if you run Altair into the system, it is a constant problem, and we've had lawsuits over it, and it is just a time and labor suck as well.
Thanks, Zach. So as a result of that, for our analysis, we've essentially said that well 2 is it's on standby. It's not part of the numbers that we're using here. You'll see in the upper chart, well 1 has a production of 545 gallons per minute, and well number 3 has a production of 485 gallons a minute. So generally, these are both good producing wells, so good production. The bottom 2 bullets, what we're looking at there is how long do those 2 wells have to run on your average day, that's 700,000 gallons per day, to meet your demand. And you'll see we're right at 11.99 hours. What we like to see is no more than 12 hours. So you guys are creeping right up on it. So this is just a good indicator that when your run times reach 12 hours per day, you're going to start seeing issues on your above average days, and your production is starting to fall behind. This bottom bullet where we say firm capacity runtime, so this is kind of a worst case scenario evaluation. If well number 1 fails over Memorial Day weekend during peak usage, what's going to happen? So you're left with only well 3 to meet your system demand. This shows that well number 3 would have to run 39 hours in 1 day to meet your demand. Obviously, we don't have 39 hours in a day, we only have 24. So what this is telling you is you're not going to be able to keep up with demand, and your tanks are going to begin draining, and if you can't get well 1 back online quick enough, you have the potential that you would run out of water. So this is, again, this is a worst case scenario evaluation, but Zach can tell you that's kind of how it goes. It's your hottest day of the year, the system's under big strain, and that's when things tend to fail. So these numbers both indicate that the west system needs more production, needs more wells. Next slide is water loss in the west system. So what water loss is, and I assume the board is familiar, but water loss is a comparison of how much water you pump to how much water you sell. And the difference is the water lost. So that's, you can think of that as lost revenue. It's a result of leaks in the system, potentially old meters. I think Zach and we believe primarily what we're looking at here is we think probably leaks throughout the distribution system. So again, we've got some planning to try to address some of these issues. One thing you will see here is this is trending in the right direction. Back in 2018, your water loss was 30% and pretty consistently dropping down to as low as 22% last year. So that does seem to be improving and moving in the right direction. I know the city's made pretty significant effort in installing new customer meters. That potentially could be part of the result of what you're seeing there.
Hey, Dave, real quick, when you say loss, from connections, or where's this water going? I mean,
So common loss would be inaccurate customer meters. When meters get old, they read low. So 500 gallons could pass through the meter, but the meter only registers 450. That's, as meters age, they lose accuracy and they read slow, not fast. So that's one place water could be being lost and not accounted for on this old side. I think the other main area would be leaks. Water that's being pumped from your wells and leaking out of your system into the ground and never making it to the customers.
And we just don't know.
Right. Zach, anything else there?
No, I agree with that. I mean, you can ghost water out of the production meters as well. If you're getting, I mean, these numbers are based on a pump, on the meter at the well, based on the meters at the customer side. So if we're ghosting water through a meter, say you've got a bad turbine in one of your well meters and it wants to clock high, if you're push so much water through these meters, even a 1% change or 2% change as these turbine meters run out, they can, if you have a higher reading, you think, oh, it's better, it's reading better than it should. Well, you know, because you're not putting that water into the tower. So your readings on your reading on your logs is way off, and that throws the meters off, throws that off as well. But we did have everything. We had all of the source meters tested by MRWA. We replaced everything on the east side last year. And there is a handful of residential meters and commercial meters still that need to be replaced, but the vast majority of them are all younger than 10 years. So we beat our heads through the math. There was a lot of help with the billing department with this. We went and tested the meters. We tested when we started replacing the residential and commercial sizes, kind of there's one thing left, and that's just leaks on the system alone. And like Dave is saying, those numbers are going down, and that is, you know, for 2%, 3% gains, that is a ton of work that goes into finding those leaks and digging those leaks. I think they dug straight last year for 45 days, consistent work days of just 45 days of digging and fixing leaks. And like the mayor's saying, roughly only about 30% of them ever show up. They ever get called in. A lot of these are just found by going down and listening on every service on a road. And then when you find them, and that, based on our topography, a leak can find the lake real easy. You know, they don't always just come up out of the ground. It can just be dumping into the lake and no one ever notices it. A lot of times in the winter or the fall, we'll get calls when they lower the levels, and then people see it actually coming out when the lake goes down. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Alderman Rucker, yes.
Yes, I've got 3 areas I'd like to ask for Dave or Zach to identify. One is every time there's a fire and the fire department hooks that fire hydrant, I know from the past, they don't get billed on that. So that's water that is not being billed for. We also have a flush program I'm aware of. I don't know how aggressive that flush program is continuing, but a flush program that the city has done historically. And then the other thing is I know the fire department does, and I don't know how much the city water department does, but the fire department does an annual checking of every fire hydrant, and again, open those fire hydrants up, make sure they function. So those are water usages there, all 3 of those that we do not bill for. Historically, I don't know what kind of percentage that attributes to, but it's got to be, I don't know, but I know there's those things that need to be considered in this. Thank you.
All right.
If I may. Alderman Rucker, we do track those numbers. The fire department reports, they average those numbers, and then when we're flushing, we use pitot gauges to give us our GPM, and then we time it and make a rough estimate of what we lost or what that usage was, and it is recorded and tracked. But when you're talking, in the millions and hundreds of millions, it doesn't. Even when you put that 1 million gallons in there of that accounted loss through the flushing and the fire department, it doesn't really change the numbers drastically.
Thank you.
From there, if there's no additional questions on the west system, we can keep flipping.
If I could,
move
real
into
quick.
the east system.
Dave, I did have one. I was just kind of waiting for the right time. Is the project that we're doing in conjunction with the school, is that going to help the west side numbers with the redundancy and everything? And is that project on track?
The project is on track.
Excellent.
Hope is to bid that later this year, coming weeks, I believe. So that project doesn't help you from a production standpoint. What that project does is that takes a large number of users off of a dead-end main. So right now you have a large number of users where if you had a break in the wrong spot, you've got a whole bunch of people out of water. And we try to set up water systems where that's not the case. So the water main looping project over by the school, that takes a lot of customers out of that situation.
I thought that line was a dead-end line, and we had to flush it a lot because of that. And by it being a redundant, creating the loop, we wouldn't be losing as much.
That would be an improvement also.
Okay.
That will improve, we would expect that to improve water quality in a dead-end main. Zach would have to comment on the extent to which flushing was occurring there, how much water loss that would offset.
Yeah, like Dave said, the water quality issues, and it's funny because it's the way that's set up. With Nichols and Dude Ranch, you wouldn't think it because where it's at, but it's at the end of the line. Like the water has to make its way all the way around the city, down up through Normandy before it gets there. So because that water is in the system so long, it has longer time for that manganese to oxidize. There is still a manganese load in well 1. It's smaller, but it does affect those quality of issues. So if we can get that water there faster, down through Gulfview and Nichols, then we don't have that long transition time, then yeah, it will definitely help with the water quality and better water quality, less flushing. So
okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
That's a great project for the city. I mean, it does a lot of improvement on your water system.
Yeah, it's highly recommended. I mean, I think there was a huge miss site back in the day, and I think it's been looked at a couple times, but it's a big flaw on how the road bore comes across 54 in only one spot and doesn't loop itself back across on Nichols. So it's a massive project.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. We can keep moving through the east system. Can I move through the slides, or can you move through the slides?
You should be able to.
With this?
Yeah, if it's not, is it not working for you?
There it goes. Okay. East system. So we're going to run through something very similar to what we just talked about the west system, and now we're looking at your east system. Okay, so the chart again, showing your water usage. If you looked at your overall water usage as a city, looking at the east and west, you use 60% of your water in the east system and 40% in the west system. So we have more water use on the east side. You see that in these numbers. Average day is 1.1 million gallons per day versus about 700 where we were in the west side. And your peak day is 1.6 million gallons per day. So just overall higher usage, more customers, more units on the east side of your system. More large users also, more of the condos, more commercial. So that all plays into more water usage. Next slide. Again, looking at the historic growth, this shows you have the currently 1,393 connections, which if we dive into those connections, that's actually 3,354 units. So again, lots of connections with multiple high-level units on them. And then on the lower chart, similar to what we talked about on the west side, if you look at 2007 and compare that to 2023, it's about 150,000 gallons per day increase in water use. And that does represent a little bit higher growth rate also than what we saw on the west system. So again, you're already seeing this. You're more development in town, more higher population, more water use. There we go. Projected growth. Again, still in the east system, so we're doing the exact same growth projection that we used on the west side. 5% growth for the next 5 years, and then we drop back to 2% for the remainder of the study. And you'll see what that does is right now we're looking at 1.1 million gallons per day. Run those growth projections out to year 2054, and we're looking at 2.4 million gallons per day. So again, the water usage is doubling over that time period. Storage in the east system. So different than your west system, on your east system you have 3 storage tanks. The Columbia tank, the Bluff Drive tank, and the Passover Road tank. Same analysis though. We're looking for a minimum of 1 day of storage and a maximum of 4. And you'll see when we compare your average daily use to your system provided, your east system between the 3 tanks provides 1.4 million gallons of storage, and that's 1.25 days. So where we had 2 days on the west side, we've only got 1.25 on the east side. So what you're going to see later in the report is as you grow, your water use is going to go up, and that's going to drive you down below the 1 day of storage. And at that point, we'll be looking to recommend more storage in your east system.
Hey, Dave, how long should a storage tank last?
Well maintained to last a long time. Usually more what we see is as cities grow, their tanks are too small, and they replace them because the benefit of them just isn't significant enough. Certainly 50 years, and likely longer than that, again, well maintained. Keep an eye on the coatings. Your composite tanks should certainly last a long time. The tanks with the concrete pedestals, that concrete is, that design is intended to be robust and long lasting.
Very good, thank you.
Yep. All right, looking at your production on your east system. 4 active wells in your east system. Again, we see kind of the similar outcome to what we saw in the east system. When we look at how long those 4 wells have to run on your average day to meet demand, it's 11.58 hours. And we're looking to keep that under 12. So your usage, as your usage continues to go up, your wells are going to run longer, and you're going to continue to tax your system more. The firm capacity evaluation. So again, this is worst case scenario. Your best well goes out on your highest usage day. If you're trying to meet demand with only well 2 and 3, and you've lost the Bluff Drive well, you can't do it. Those 3 wells have to run almost 27 hours to meet your demand. So again, you're going to be operating at a deficit. Your water tanks are going to be draining over the course of the day, and they're not going to be able to refill. And if you're not able to address your issue with well 6 quickly enough, eventually you could end up in a spot where you were looking at water conservation plans or potentially your system not having enough water.
Dave, excuse me.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes, just something that just dumped into my head here. Did you give any consideration on the west side, the fact of the hospital's tank, and on the east side, the Lake Ozark tank? It's my understanding on both those tanks that we have connections with those valves being closed, and those systems could be utilized in emergencies. That's my understanding. Have you given view, or can you speak about that at all?
Sure. So I think both statements you made are correct. Those you do have interconnects with those systems. Starting with the hospital tank, the hospital tank is shorter than the Swiss Village tank. And what that means to you is that would create a lot of challenges trying to use those two tanks at the same time. From the idea of in an emergency scenario, trying to use that's maybe more of an idea. One thing I'll tell you though, being shorter, you would reduce the pressures throughout your system, and your customers would see lower pressures. In an emergency situation, that certainly could be something you would look at doing. Zach, anything you want to add about the hospital tank?
I would say that in an emergency situation, they are available. They do not have the production capabilities to carry us. The West Side could buy you some more time, but at their 400 gallons a minute they can produce, they need about half of it for their production. So, they have a 400,000 gallon tower, but they use almost 200,000 gallons a day in the summertime. So it would slow the bleeding, but then after a while, I'd imagine that the hospital would realize they're losing out and have to close that valve just to keep them in water. It could slow the process and buy us more time, but their production isn't there to replace a Swiss 1 or a Swiss 3.
Zach, anything on Lake Ozark?
Lake Ozark's the same way. I mean, best case scenario, we have an issue in the wintertime. We could go with Lake Ozark and they can hold us. They have a different system. It's the same system. They don't chlorinate their system like we do. Since we are a chlorinated system, we will have to do some things to chlorinate their side if they fed us. Wintertime, same problems as we have. High usage, supply and production's not there, so there's probably not a lot of water available for us anyways in the summertime if it comes. It could slow things down, but it'd probably get to a point where they would have to shut us off or risk draining both the East Side system and then Lake Ozark.
But in my mind, if you're in a position where you're struggling to keep up with water demand, your neighbors are probably in the same situation, and your neighboring communities having enough water to spare to make a significant impact to help you, I would be hesitant to recommend you rely upon that. Certainly there is an option, and in an emergency scenario we can try to explore. But again, I would be hesitant to recommend that you rely upon that.
And I would add that we do use the hospital's tower. So if we take Swiss offline, the Swiss tower itself, for cleanings or washouts, we can handle that. We can direct feed and overload the distribution system and fill their tower, but we can't do it the other way around. We can't do it with a pump missing. So we can use our tower and operate all day long as all our wells are running. But the flip of that, we couldn't make it work. Yeah.
Mayor?
Yes,
Mayor?
Alderman Rucker.
I was not suggesting, I just want you to put out, I was not suggesting that both two systems be utilized to fulfill our needs. I was only suggesting that is, as it was mentioned by both Dave and Zach, that that's an emergency situation in our pocket that can help slow down the bleeding, help buy you some more time to get that well up in place, that kind of scenario. That was my only reasoning for bringing that up and sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, based on these numbers, you're going to see recommendations for additional wells in your east system to help improve these numbers and increase your production capabilities.
If I could real quick.
Absolutely, Alderman Rucker. Hoffman.
Sorry. So are you, I'm just kind of trying to cut through this a little bit. Are you saying we should add more wells, or we should fly more water and have a new tower built, another, or both?
So it's kind of two separate analysis that we look at. Specific to the wells, we look at what your runtime is and how long those wells have to run. And once that runtime gets high enough, we tell you it's time to drill another well. On the storage side, we're looking at how many days of storage you have up in the air. So again, the more days of storage, the more gallons of water you have up in the air ready to go to your customers, the more stable your system is, the less likely you're going to come into a scenario where you're potentially running out of water because you've got it stored up in the air ready to use. So it's two things we look at separately. Kind of cutting to this, what you're going to see as we show what our recommendations are, you're going to see recommendations for new wells in your west system, new wells and new tanks in your east system, based on the data we've run.
Okay, thank you.
And, all right, I always say I like to dumb things down. I thought I knew what you meant, but now I don't. When you say runtime on a well, what does runtime mean?
How many hours that well has to be on and pumping water during the day.
Okay, so it's pumping time.
Yeah, pumping time, there you go.
Okay.
Yep. Another way to say it.
Mayor, I have a question as well.
Alderman Brill?
On the east side system for the water loss, that's double what the water loss is on the west side. Is there any more like indication on what that is? Or maybe like not as many pumps have been replaced on that side, or just don't know?
It's a leaker. It hasn't fared as well as the west side. I don't know if it's just the use on it, the drain on it, the age on it. It just has not stayed consistent with the west side. We're going to be bringing something to the board to do a leak survey on that entire side, but yeah, it is just leaking. So, bunch of little ones, a couple major ones, maybe we don't know yet.
The hope would be that we can find a couple major ones. Right. Mm-hmm. If it's a whole bunch of little ones scattered all over the place, that gets very hard to address and very expensive to address.
I was going to say, I find this slide and this whole presentation the most disturbing, that basically almost 50% of the water that we are pumping is disappearing into where? Literally, that's, well, not quite 50% the last year, but 3 years ago, that was 47.9. Literally, that's odd and very alarming that half the water we're pumping, we can't account for. Where is it going? Anyway, crazy numbers.
Is that common in towns that there's so much loss?
So you'll see at the bottom of the slides, we show we like to see systems target 10 to 12%. If you were at 10 to 12%, we probably wouldn't recommend you invest any money in trying to improve that, because you're just chasing something you're probably never going to make much improvement on. At the levels you guys are at, yeah, it's worth trying to figure out what we've got going on and see if we can improve that. You guys are, I consider anything above 20 to be high. I think if it's above 20, some effort should be made in trying to find the leaks and improve that. So yeah, you guys are above that. There's systems that are better than you guys, there's systems that are worse than you guys. Really you're maybe somewhere in the middle, maybe a little bit above average, but we have worked with systems that are above 50. I've heard people talk 70%. I've heard of systems that have to pump twice the water they use to keep up.
Okay. I think Mr. Ross has it.
Alderman Ross. You're on mute.
Your mic's off, Richard.
Thanks. Sorry. Somebody walked through the room. I turned it off and I forgot I did. I apologize. Thank you. So I appreciate the acceptable loss amount. And I believe that one of the biggest things we can do, first of all, though, I want to recognize Zach, and I know Keegan worked on this for quite a while, and I know Carrie has some, trying to figure out through the meters what we might have been losing. I'm not sure really what we found, how much we were losing, but the meters are in good shape. We got a lot of leakers out there, just like Zach said, and we need to find them. And
Muted again.
Lost you. Mute button.
it keeps jumping. I'm sorry, folks. It keeps doing it on its own. My apologies. in the end, I see that we're going to be surveying these, both sides, a hydrophone. I think I'm trying to move back and forth in my screens, but a hydrophone test. So what's the probability that it's going to find 80% of leaks? I'm not familiar with that test. How effective can it be, do you guys think?
Sorry.
Hello?
So the city of Lebanon had the same issue a few years back, and they came in and had a company do similar to what we want to do. The issue we'll run into, it's ironic, but we don't have a lot of ductile iron mains. So when you're listening on a main for a water leak, the sound carries a lot better on ductile iron and shorter distance on plastic pipe. So with our plastic mains, the listening distance is shorter for the correlator sets, the hydrophones, but well, the company that I've been talking to, they're very experienced and they do this, they've got better equipment than we have. They've got more knowledge and say so, and I would assume that.
Well, good. I think we need to fix what we have, is what I'm trying to say. And everyone's concerned about the leaks. I get that. My biggest concern, honestly, is trying to understand how the projects 3 and 4 on the capital plan they're even before we do the leak survey on the west side system. And so are those additional customers or are those repairs to existing lines on projects 3 and 4?
Project 3 is the project that Alderman Hoffman was discussing earlier out by the school.
I thought so, but I want to make sure. Thank you.
And Project 4 is a similar type project that also picks up some additional customers. It brings water, and separately from this, we're also planning to bring sewer service to customers in that area.
Okay. So is there a reason that we're asking for the west side system to wait till 26? Is it a matter of capacity, or is it how do we determine that?
Our concern was we're losing half of our water. We're losing 40%. If they come in and do a leak study next year on the east side, they might find more work for us than we can handle. That was the logic behind splitting up between the 2 years, is that once they even find these, like, someone's got to fix them. So to give the guys time to go through and fix everything that they find, with the idea that they come through the system, the west side system, the year later, and then check that side.
Okay. My last question is has any of these costs that you guys are projecting, I'm glad that we have some type of plan. Very happy with this. Not sure I'm happy that we have to spend all this money, but it never ends, so it doesn't matter. Point is that has anyone laid this into our current rate structure and tried to extrapolate that out through 5 years to see what that does to our current rates?
So from our perspective, that's probably the next step here, is to take this capital improvement plan and kind of meld that with a funding plan and understand how we make that work. I guess kind of goal tonight was to present the projects and make sure kind of generally there was buy-in from everyone, and then try to figure out how do we move forward. And totally understand the two have to go together. You guys can't say, yeah, this plan's great, let's do it, until we figure out how to pay for it. But that's step 2 in completing this 5-year plan, I would say, is how do we pay for it?
Okay. Well, I think I appreciate that. I guess we'll wait for that. I'm glad that we're getting a handle around the whole water system, and appreciate we're trying to take a pragmatic and systematic approach to resolving it. That's all I have. Thank you.
One other thing that I think goes right in line with what Alderman Ross was saying, and kind of and some of the other comments of the significance of the water loss. Reducing water loss helps your storage. It helps your production. If you've got less water leaking out into the ground, that means you have to pump less. So anything we can do to improve the water loss and reduce the water loss, that pushes all these recommendations we're making down the road, because we don't have to pump water to let it leak out into the ground. It's gonna, your wells are gonna run less. I think we can all kind of wrap our heads around that. If water's not leaking out into the ground, our wells have to run less time to produce the amount of water we need. So that's why you see the hydrophone surveys early on in the capital improvement plan, is to try to address those issues up front. About done here. Here's a little quick rate information. This is probably somewhat familiar to you from a lot of the information that this board has been looking at over the last several months. But I do think it's good to see how your rates compare to your neighbors. And the neighbors we're looking at here, I think generally you compare pretty well with. You're not the most expensive, you're not the least expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes.
First of all, Dave, thank you so much for this information, as well as Zach, the gentleman here whose name I forget. TJ, thank you so much for your work on this. Unfortunately, we didn't have this 2 months ago. Would have been ideal with our rate increase discussions, something to present to the public. That's one of the things I keep thinking about this was, boy, this would have worked to our advantage on selling the rate increases to the public. But I agree with what Richard says. Well, those rate increases are in effect now. Doesn't mean we can't revise them down the line on the tier process to maybe absorb some of the cost of these. But obviously, what we thought we were going to be reimbursing ourselves for other departments or basically keep the Public Works Department independent of relying on other funds. Obviously, that plan is not quite going to work out as we had thought, since we're looking at some major monies needing to go into capital improvements for that department. So, but boy, I wish we'd had this 2 months ago. Could have held this up and waved this like a flag to the citizens, saying, here's why. So anyway, that's all.
Last thing we're planning on doing is just, we've already kind of been hitting on it a little bit, but here's what we got for the 5-year plan, and we're just going to take, TJ's going to take a few minutes, kind of hit each one of the projects and make sure it's clear to everyone what we have included here.
Okay, so my name's TJ. If you guys got any questions, please stop me and ask away. So the first project that we have scheduled is like Zach was saying, is the hydrophone leak survey on the east system. That's obviously where we have that 42% water loss, and we kind of talked through that a little bit already. And that is scheduled for 2025. The next item is the Passover tank recoating in the east system, which I believe is already scheduled. And so that's why we already have that on here. That is also scheduled for 2025. The next few projects, Golfview Lane to Nichols Road in the west system and Bluff Drive to Holiday Shores Drive in the east system. Those are both proposed for 2025. Those are both looping projects. There's a map that right after this slide that I'll show you kind of where they're all at. They are going to just kind of, again, add redundancy to the system and pick up a few connections along the way as well. Project number 5 is the hydrophone leak survey in the west system. Again, we already hit on that. That's just to detect water loss. The Jayhawk Street to Hatchery Road in the east system. That is another looping project that runs down Highway 54. I'll show it to you on the next slide. There's a map showing everything. Again, that's a pretty important project. It loops everything. It kind of again, it adds redundancy to your system in case of I believe there's only one crossing across Highway 54 currently. If something happens to that crossing, your whole downtown area is out of water. So this is a redundant project. It's very similar to the Golfview Lane to Nichols Road water main project. Project 7 is a new well in the west system. I threw a 500 gallon per minute production rate on that. It really depends on the area that you're drilling. And as far as that goes, all the wells in the west system are around 500 gallons a minute, so that's what I put it at, but it could vary. I just wanted to put a disclaimer out there. So again, this will bring down your well run time. As Dave was saying earlier, that is proposed for 2026. The project 8 is a new 600 gallon per minute well in the east system. Again, just to drive down production and well run times. That is also another project in 2026. So those two projects are pretty important in order to bring your current well run times, which are 12 hours, down below that marker. The project 9, which is probably the most expensive project on here, this is a 1.5 million gallon elevated storage tank in the east system. So the east system was the area where we needed storage. We typically try to get the largest tank that we possibly can within reason to stay within that 1 to 4 days. So this would put you right at the 4-day mark. However, in the long run, it will save the city money. If you do 2 smaller tanks, that's typically more expensive than just doing 1 larger tank. So just keep that in mind. This pricing is for a composite tank too. So like Dave was saying with the concrete column, those are typically more expensive tanks too. So there are options out there. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That project is projected for 2027. The project number 10 in 2028 is the Swiss Village Well House number 1. I believe there's been discussion on this project. Is that correct, Zach? I think the well house currently is just it's met its useful life and it needs to be replaced. Is more or less the reasoning for that project. Project number 11, Swiss Village Tank Recoating in the West System. This is based on the tank investigations that are taking place every so often. I believe it was KLM wrote a report, and this was a recommendation, so we added that to the list as well. And that is projected for 2029. Project number 12 is, again, it's another well. This well is going to be located in the West System. This further pushes along that the well run times down below that 12-hour mark, which we're all trying to meet, and that is projected for 2030. So this is just 12 projects. We met with the city, we prioritized them all. There's 12 more actually, but this is in the first 5 years. Okay, so and these plans go all the way out, or these projects go all the way out to 2038. So just keep that in mind. So the total capital improvements costs over the next 5 years, you can see at the bottom, is $16.6 million. And then the total project improvement cost in 2038, when all this is said and done with all the improvements, is $33.3 million is what we have shown. And that's in today's dollars too. So, so you can't really see this, but I did bring some poster boards with all the maps and everything, with projected all the projects and everything, so you can take a closer look at them. But that's pretty much it, I think.
Good, thank you.
So I think that's pretty much it.
Then we start all over again, right?
Yeah, you don't have a central system, do you, that we need to cover? So that's what we had for you tonight. If there's any questions, you can certainly address them now, or
Does anybody else have any other questions? I mean, we answered or asked them during presentation. Anybody have anything else?
I just want to thank you guys for all your hard work. I know that you had a whole team on it, and those are great numbers to have, great data. Thanks.
And to start it off, I should have thanked Zach and his crew too. We've been bugging them for the last year, asking for 2 years. 2 years, he says, asking for some of this data so we can take it and compile it. So thanks to Zach and his crew over there.
Alderman Osteen.
I did have one question. On the capital improvements chart, certain items are highlighted in gray as opposed to white. What's the significance?
It's just every other year. So every other year, so.
When's some of them storage and production?
Like 1, 2, 3, and 4, the projects are in gray, and then 9 and
25, and then the next ones are 26, and the next ones are 27.
Oh, okay. Makes sense now.
Is it not color coordinated enough for you?
I get it.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman. Thank you, gentlemen. It's very informative.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See, Dallas, wasn't that worth the wait? All right. All right, let's move on to the staff communications. We're going to start with our city administrator, Devin Lake.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. First of all, I wanted to thank you for allowing me to go to MML. That was the first year I've ever gotten to go. It was awesome. I sat through some really awesome trainings, learned a lot. And I also want to welcome Jamie Rutledge. She is our new Public Information Officer. She started on Monday, and she's already done some projects for parks, I think, and she's hit the ground running, so we appreciate her being here, and introduce yourself to her. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you very much. Assistant City Administrator April White.
Thank you. Mayor and members of the board, I just basically ditto what Devin said. This was my first time going to MML, and I had a great time, and I appreciate the city allowing me to go. That's all I have.
All right. City Clerk Tara Barrett.
Well, Mayor, members of the board, I went to MML too. Thank you. Had a good time. That's it.
All right. City Treasurer Carrie Bell.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
All right. How about you, City Attorney Cole Bradbury?
Mayor, members of the board, I did not go to MML, but I will be out most of next week at the International Municipal Lawyers Association meeting in Florida, so thank you for that. And I also wanted to celebrate a win. Madam City Administrator, you can remove the first item on the department update list, Camden County Road Property Tax Questions. Carrie Bell and I finally, our long national nightmare is over. We got that one done, and it's off the list. I think that's all I've got.
Very good. Chief Davis?
Just want to thank everybody for their support over the last couple weeks that we had with the loss of Felicia. The support that the staff here and the community have shown has been overwhelming to everybody. It's going to take us a while to get through this, but with the support everybody's given us, it's great to have. So, thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Building official Ron White.
Oh, yes, I too had the opportunity to go to the Missouri Municipal League Conference. I've been to twice as many as your administrators have been to. This one was definitely, nothing against the last one, but this one was pretty great. We had a lot of great opportunities to do some networking. I did find that most of our conversations when we were speaking with other jurisdictions eventually came around to the Oasis project. So we are renowned statewide. That's all I have.
Very good. IT, Michael Beaton.
I too went to MML. I want to thank the board. I also want to thank Tara specifically for doing all the work. It made it super easy, showed up, had everything ready. Ron and April as well. Being my first time, I kind of stumbled my way through, but thank you three specifically for what you did to make it easy, specifically for me. So thank you.
All right, very Gregory Parks.
I did not go to MML, but I heard everybody had a good time. I just want to thank everybody, our vendors and the people that went shopping, that attended our Osage Beach rummage sale this past Saturday, the vendors out in town, and we had a lot more vendors in City Park than we did last year, and I think some deals were made and lots of stuff purchased. Thank Bob for coming out, selling some of his stuff. My wife is very happy with her wine glasses, so thanks for that. And Drew was there too, selling some stuff. So we had a good time.
Yeah.
Yep. Just a real quick update on the Osage Beach Dog Park. For those that don't know, the city is partnered with Lowe's, and we are currently constructing a very large dog park on Soccer Field 3. We are getting assistance from Public Works using the hydrojet truck. Thank you very much for that. It is moving along very quickly because of that. And we have volunteers from Lowe's coming down and helping us each week. I think we're on track to have our ribbon cutting in correlation with our Fall Festival event, October 12th. So it's going to be a big deal. We're very excited about it. And then just a reminder for those listening at home, our annual Fall Festival, Osage Beach Fall Festival, our city's biggest event, is October 12th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., family-friendly event. We are currently seeking vendors, so if you have things you would like to sell, give us a call, and we'll sign you up, 573-302-7460. You can find more information online. That's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Airport, tied in still.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
All right, Zach, you have anything else?
I do. I guess as the report is finally final, like they're saying, a lot of work went into this. The building department, Keegan put a lot of work into this over the, I don't know, TJ and her probably best friends now, but a lot of that stuff that for those larger consumption meters, that the data that she provided to them that wasn't easy to pull, and it took a lot of time and hours. I'm very grateful that it's done. I also like to thank TJ too and Cochran. I mean, it's really big. And there's some stuff that that's not even mentioned in the report, like the pressure maps and the models. There's some really great stuff that came out of this. I don't know. It's one of those things you always wish you had. Oh, I wish I had a pressure map of the system. Oh, one day we're going to make it. We're going to pressure test every hydrant. And TJ builds it on a computer and proofs it out in the system, and it works just fine. So that was amazing. Thank you. But yeah, other than that, Vapex. We got the pre-ship notifications. We approved everything. It was supposed to leave today. It never left today. I would assume if it's going to hot shot, they're not going to try it tomorrow. But the water line will likely be finished tomorrow. We've got the holes bored into the wet well already. And then we just got to finish the piping on that. So once we get it set in place, we'll be able to connect the water, connect the electric, and finish the piping. If that thing gets down here, maybe by the next board meeting, I'll have a pretty good update on it for you. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you much. City Engineer, Drew.
I just wanted to say that I'm very excited to have the GIS technician start on Monday. I know that we're really excited to get him on board and start kind of modifying and updating and really using GIS to the fullest extent. So I know that it really helps out Public Works. It helps me do my stuff, and be better to have someone that's an expert and help us out in fixing and updating the system. So we're excited.
All right, thank you. Dave, TJ, you guys have anything else?
Nothing else? No questions?
All right. Alderman Rucker. Alderman Rucker.
I was waiting my turn. A couple of things. First of all, the MML this year was my 16th year of being there. And unfortunately, due to my back situation, which is there, we've got a little bit of progress that we're making and some possible help in sight. But unfortunately, that didn't help me out, and I had to miss a little bit of the stuff. But the meeting I missed and one training session that I wanted to go to that I needed to just get off my feet. But I did attend the early bird session on AI, and wow, that was very, very impressive. And I've learned just enough to try to ask Michael some questions to help me out with it. So, but that was a very good class, and Tuesday had some real good classes on investment that I was proud to go to. So I was very, very well pleased. Every year that I've been, I've always been able to say it's been worth my time. Shout out to Zach and Devin for the report on the Public Works, Raftel report that was given on the update of how they're going to be moving forward with that. Appreciate that. That way we can see where our money's going that we spent and how we're going to prosper from that. The other question I have is, and this may have been lost in the shuffle, but I haven't heard anything about the city population signs. And I know that was a project that was between Gina and I thought Zach. And if not, if that was just the Gina project, then I will get with either Devin and bring her up to speed on it, and so we can get the information we need to discuss that further. Other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman Umbrella.
Well, thank you for allowing me to go to MML. Had fun time meeting with the other cities. Sorry for my casual dressing today. We had a firm outing and toured the Chiefs Stadium and had to make a mad dash to get here. Little update on Wingfest. Wanted to thank the restaurants, the vendors, the community for attending that. It was a good attendance, and we were able to make a little bit over $22,000 in those 2 hours. 11,000 of that will be going to Officer Carson's family, and then 11,000 of that will be going to Community Foundation. So it was a good turnout, great event. Oh, and lastly, I got presented with this cool badge from the chief. He told me it is not a get out of free jail card, so I still have to be good, but I was pretty proud of it and thought it was awesome, so thank you.
All right, Alderman Hoffman.
Congrats on your badge.
Thank you.
I got the same speech. I did go to MML. Cochran, and I want to thank you and / that dinner was fantastic. The sunset up on top of the rock was just really cool. So kudos to you guys. That was well done. Tara, thank you so much for all your effort. It just seems like it's easy for us when we show up there because of all the hard work you do. Because I hear other aldermen and other mayors and other city officials talking about how difficult their check-in process is or know where they're supposed to go, and we never seem to have that. And I know that's you and probably some of Devin and some of April. So to the three of you, thank you very much. It was awesome. But what I was most proud of is I spent a lot of time talking to other officials, other aldermen, other city administrators, and I heard the same thing over and over, that Osage Beach showed up in force. Man, you brought your whole team, and all of your people are very engaging and very knowledgeable on the topics that are being thrown around here at the conference, and that made me very proud. So well done, Team Osage Beach.
Alderman Osteen.
I guess I'll kick off with the MML conversations as well. Had a fantastic time. People understand it's not just about all the free cocktails. Sometimes you're having those free cocktails is when you have your best conversations to learn more information about other cities, other city administrators. We had one late night evening, a lively conversation regarding leasing versus purchasing city vehicles with the mayor of Aurora. And it was a late night conversation, but it was like a 20-minute long conversation about pros and cons with 5 different individuals from Belton, Aurora, Raytown, et cetera. That was the topic of discussion over cocktails late at night. So you learn quite a bit in areas you didn't think you would, or in places you didn't think you would, outside of the conference itself. Also want to jump on the bandwagon to thank Tara for all the hard work that she did on keeping us all in line and letting us know where we had to be and when we had to be there. I do want to thank Eric Gregory and the Parks Department for the rummage sale that was held last Saturday. People understand the amount of work that goes to an event like that. Setup for the event began at 5 a.m. So the park staff, including Eric, were at the park at 5 a.m. and there were people there waiting to set up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was a 6 o'clock setup guy, but that was a miracle in itself. But it was a very fun event. I made some damn good money. I would also like to thank Carrie Bell for all the work she did with the bidding process and sorting through what I'm sure is mindless paperwork on the banking institutions that were bidding to retain or hold our business. I have somebody with a banking background. Of course, I went through everything that you sent just to double check and compare things against each other. In fact, I think Alderman Hoffman and I discussed it on the way back from the MML conference. I had the tab pulled up and we were comparing the different, we would find a number of references, some of them were requiring things of that nature, just discussing that. Other than that, I've got one last show that is Serdike Yamaha has donated a 4-wheeler that they are raffling off. 100% of the proceeds for those tickets go to a fund that's been set up for the children of Officer Carson. So please, folks, buy tickets because once again, 100% of the proceeds for that raffle go to the family. So just wanted to give a pitch out there to Serdike. That's all.
All right. No, you already had your time.
I know, no, I get to talk. I got an email today from / Alderman Barella, Alderman Hoffman, Alderman Osteen. You guys, can you please get online and take your training for the quarter for the fishing. You need to go on your Osage Beach email, please, so you guys can come off my list.
Aye, aye,
Appreciate
Captain.
Mayor Harmonson, I think you're on there.
I thought you were going to miss me.
No. I was saving the best for last. I got you.
All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I got mine done.
I know you're not. You're not on there. And the only reason I'm not yelling at Alderman Ross is because he left. I'll get him later. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to start with MML, but I want to explain to folks, too, what MML is a little bit. It's the Missouri Municipal League, and they're an organization that's been around for 90 years, and they're helped to help municipalities become better leaders. And thank you, Tara, for setting things up. Yes, other than I had to pay for it right off the bat, and then I was reimbursed other than that. But no, your tax dollars sent us there, folks. So if you're listening online, and we go to several classes, we meet with other municipalities, we learn how to become better leaders and see what other municipalities are doing to make them better leaders, and we sit around and talk. So we did go in full force, which is great. I'm glad everybody's able to go. And you're so right, Ron, that people are talking about Osage Beach and what's going on and how we're growing. And they were very complimentary of what we were doing. And so we don't just go down there lightly, folks. We appreciate it. And your tax dollars sent us there and hopefully become better leaders. So thank you sincerely. The other thing I wanted to thank, we do go out to dinner at times. Cochrane Stifle / Missouri American Waters. They joined forces one night and took us out to a great dinner and entertainment. So thank you to all of them. Alliance Energy also. They took us out to a nice dinner. And when we got to dinner, we talked, as Alderman Osteen said. So thank you to all of them. They didn't have to do it, and we appreciate it. Dallas, I appreciate you coming out, sitting through the meeting. I know it's been fun. Looking forward to good things. Like I said at the beginning of the meeting, hopefully this moves forward because it is good for everybody involved. So thanks for coming out tonight. Rummage sale was great. I didn't sell anything, but we showed up there, Kim and I, geez, about noon, and they said we're sold out, or late morning. And so it sounds like it was real good. And I'm guessing you never did sell your patio furniture? No. If you have some nice patio furniture, Eric Greger still has that for sale. And the Bike Fest. Nobody talked about the Bike Fest, but I don't know if you've ever heard of Harmy's Cheese Store, but it's that blue and yellow building down there. We're the #1 stamp on Bike Fest, and we've not heard the numbers yet. I independently said I think it's going to be 150,000. They were hoping for 100. We were as busy at our store on a Friday as we were last year on a Saturday. The bikes started parking, and Chief, I know this was probably a pain for the police officers, but they started parking on the street from Harley-Davidson, not on the side of the street, on the street, and they just kept going. And they went past Harmy's Cheese Store, and then they went past MCS Storage, and then they went past they went so far, Slumberland. They had to go to the Parks Department and get more cones, and finally the police, I mean, they're not gonna move, 4,000 motorcycles, so they just put cones and said, hey, use the middle lane. But it was good for our city. Now, obviously, when you bring 150,000 motorcycles, there's going to be accidents, and some people get stupid and crazy. But for the most part, what a great shot in the arm to our city of Osage Beach. And appreciate the police force being out in full force. And I think most people had a good time. Jeep Invasion is this coming Friday, Saturday. And they at one time, we donated some money to them. They were hoping for about 2,000 Jeeps, and I'm hearing rumors out there they may have 5,000. So we'll see how all that goes. But
that's next weekend.
Next weekend, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. The 27th and 28th.
Correct.
And Harmy's Cheese Store happens to be on the passport. Just want to throw that out there. But that's all I have, folks. Good meeting tonight. I know it got long, but thank you for that water information, Cochrane. It's very good information. So with that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Alderman Barella?
Motion, yes.
We have a second. Alderman Hoffman. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Gosh, yeah, that was kind of
Problem. Is there enough